Greetings and welcome to Hexed Encountered. I'm Joe. In this video, we will be doing a first look at the game Berlin, Fall of the Reich, 1945. This is Solitaire Area Movement Series Volume 3. It is from Take Aim Designs and Revolution Games and is designed by Michael Rinella. Now, the two previous games in the series were Stalingrad and Manila, and I enjoyed them both a great deal. So obviously when the third one came out, I was looking forward to getting it and just received it a little bit ago. So I am going to, as I said, take a first look at this game. It is a solitaire game, as you would guess from the title, Solitaire Area Movement Series Volume 3. You can see here the map, and it does show the areas, and it's a very clever system that is fairly easy to play, but challenging to actually succeed at. I'm familiar with the rules, but we'll go through it just in case you have not been exposed to those before. That is typically how I work my first look videos. So it shouldn't take too long. And again, we're going to just kind of go through and see what's in here, and then there will be a gameplay video that will follow this. So just a quick look at some of the components. We'll see here, you can see what some of the counters look like. There's a counter sheet and the map. Here's our credits right here. We have a rule book, 2 player aids, a counter sheet, and a 22 by 34 inch mounted map, and 8 dice. All right, so I am going to crack into the box, and we'll be back in a sec to open the box. All right, there we go. Here are our dice. You can see you've got 4 black and 4 red. And we have our rule book. It is fairly short. As I said, this is not an overly complicated game. The rule book runs 15 pages. Here are our player aids. 2 of them, both double-sided. Okay, we will look at those in a moment. Our counter sheets, or counter sheet, I should say. All right, we will again look at that in a bit. And then here is our mounted map. I will save this for last. So let us now check out our rule book. Okay. So you have kind of the introduction about how do you learn to play the game. You want to familiarize yourself with the components and then go through the rules. I mean, it says try a trial game and refer to the rules only when you have a question. So that, I mean, you have to skim through the charts and the rules first. For me, this should be fairly easy to get into because like I said, I have played the system before. So let's go on here. Here's our introduction saying that it is about it's a solitaire game simulating the campaign by portions of the Soviet Union's first Belarusian front and the first Ukrainian front to capture the capital of Hitler's Third Reich between April 24th and May 2nd, 1945. Okay. So our components, we already mentioned that on the outside. 1d6 indicates single die, 2d6, 2 dice, etc. The map sheet depicts the portion of Germany where combat took place between those dates. Scale is approximately 1 inch to 0.7 miles. The map's divided into 51 numbered locations, hereafter called areas. 2 areas are adjacent to each other if they share a common boundary, thus enabling units to move directly from one to another. That's covered in section 8.3. For movement restrictions, the map also contains 14 zones labeled A to N. Zones are considered the equivalent of areas in every respect unless stated otherwise. All other rules pertaining to areas apply equally to zones. Okay, they all have identifiers divided into 2 halves. Top half contains a number for identification purposes, from 1 to 51 for areas, from A to N for zones. The geometric shape of the identifier circle, triangle, square, or pentagon is used for the placement of German units. Areas with a circle identified represent both airfields and less densely populated towns and villages. Then you have your terrain types. They range from suburban, forest, light urban, heavy urban, and citadel. The TEM, terrain effects modifier, is used when resolving attacks against German units in that area. Area boundaries are separated by black and blue lines. You have airfields in zone I and areas 6, 24, and 50. You have a turn track, supply track, the morale track for the Germans, the Stalin's approval track. Available support unit box, used box for the support units. After you use them, they go in there and then they recycle back. active, you spend points to get them. We'll go through all that here in a bit. And the out of action box, this is where you hold Soviet units that were selected for loss during the combat phase. They are eligible to return to play through the expenditure of supply points. Unit colors, Soviets are brown with black text. Germans are color-coded, except for the units of the Ninth Army, which are gray with black text. Soviet unit types, we have armor and infantry. So this is an armor example down here. Here's infantry up here. You've got your setup information, your setup zone. This one has an A on it. It looks like your unit ID is there in the center. Your attack factor is 4. Your movement factor is 6. This is the fresh side. The spent side, you flip it over after it's been used. It goes on its spent side. Soviet units have information printed on them to identify the unit and its strength, as well as movement. Okay, strength factors, parent organization, units of the First Belarusian Front, including their setup zone, are color-coded orange. This one is blue. Orange for the North Wing, tan for the East Wing. Units of the First Ukrainian are color-coded blue, so this would be First Ukrainian and looking at it. Distinguishing between these three groups of units becomes important when rolling certain events. Random events from the player aid, returning units to action, and unit activation. Unit size, Soviet units are corps size, but each corps has attached armor units that are either brigades or regiments. German units, you have an unrevealed side and then the revealed side, which consists of their defense strategy and their defense factor. The higher the factor, the more tough that unit will be to defeat. We'll come over here. We've got markers. You got a turn marker there with Zhukov on it, it looks like. Then you've got German morale markers. Here's the Stalin approval markers, supply markers, artillery support, air support, bloody street. This happens, bloody streets happens when you have a combat that is not decisive for one or another. It's kind of a tie or a stalemate. A bloody streets marker is placed into that area. Combat will continue there is basically what happens. Then you've got your game length. It is 9 turns long. Each turn is 1 day from April 24th to May 2nd of 45. Then you have your marker placements that you'll put on the board. German unit setups, they start unrevealed. And then when you get into that zone, you find out what they are. Kind of draw them randomly. There's a random event phase. So now we're into the sequence of play. You start with the random event phase. So you roll 3 dice and it'll give you a number. That number will determine what the random event is for that phase. If you have no result, you can have a Zhukov pause or a Konev pause. Random event result on turns 1 and 9 has no result for the first turn or the last turn. That's the first and last turn, obviously. Supply phase. So this is where you would first roll for supply. You roll all 4 d6 for supply points, and then you can spend those for certain benefits in the game. That includes things like buying air support or artillery to help your combat, help your attacks as you try to capture the city. Then you can build out reinforcements or replacements, and unspent supply you keep for the next turn. They are banked. Then you have your combat phase, which starts with bloody streets. So anything that's carried over will get done in that phase. Then you have your, this is new, phone call to Stalin. Once per turn at the start of combat phase, the player may roll 1d6. The roll is optional and the player may always decline to make it. If you roll a 1 or a 2, you would decrease his approval. 3 and 4 does nothing. 5 and 6 increases his approval. Modifiers +1 if Berlin is surrounded and +1 if German morale is shaken. Berlin is considered surrounding when the Soviet player controls zones A through N. Looks like A, B, D, E, F, H, I, J, K, L, M, and N. Okay, 3 results greater than 6 as a 6. Then you have your action rounds. That's where you're going to move, and you can activate an area, and that will allow them to if you have fresh units in there, they can move and or attack. And you can only activate 1 area per action round. After completing its activation, a unit is flipped to its spent side. Combat phase ends when all Soviet units are spent or the player declines to activate any additional areas. And you have the end phase where you look at German morale and Stalin approval. Victory determination. What is this? Stalin approval decreases by 1 each end phase and continues to be reduced by 1 every end phase until the Reichstag, Area 50, is Soviet controlled. So that's why you would do this call to Stalin, and a call in, I guess, kiss up so that you can continue your attack. End game, you do a final victory check if you have not achieved an automatic victory. Stacking, maximum of 4 Soviet units may occupy a single area. Exception is zones. Soviet supply markers, air and artillery, or support markers, sorry, do not count against stacking limits. A max of 1 German unit is in any area at any given time. Exception for that is the, excuse me, Ninth Army. Soviet units may not move into, attack into, or end a retreat in an area already stacked to the maximum. Okay. Control, you're going to either have a Soviet control or a German control. An area containing a German unit is always German controlled. An area lacking a German unit is always Soviet controlled. Contested, if it contains units of both sides, that ends up with bloody streets. Area is vacant if it has no German units, regardless of the presence of Soviet units, but a vacant area is always Soviet controlled. And we have movement rules. How do you activate them? The costs. It costs 1 movement factor to enter a vacant area not adjacent to a German unit. So it costs more to move adjacent to a German unit, and then you would spend all your movement factors to attack within a contested area zone, or to enter a zone would also be all, because zones you can think of as like surrounding area, if I remember correctly. Okay. It costs 3 if you enter an area that has a revealed German unit that you already know what it is, and 4 if you don't know what it is. Multiple area destinations. Units starting in an active area may move into and or attack into different areas. So that means you can split it. If you have 2 units in an area and you want to move, send one to one area and another to another area, that's legal. You can't overstack. You can't exit a contested one. They have to move. Well, they can exit, but they have to move to a vacant area and then can again enter an area. So you can't go from a contested area to another area that has a German unit in it. Water, can't move across blue area boundaries. The Citadel rules, can't attack area 50 and 51. That's the Reichstag and Chancellery until German morale is less than 20. All right, there's some more stuff in here. We're going to get into the real specifics when we play. Here's the combat rules. You do have some mandatory attacks if you enter a German-occupied area that wasn't contested. Okay, if a mandatory attack results in a repulse, all the attacking units have to retreat. Okay, so you end up with, when you go in, you reveal an unrevealed German unit that's in there. There's always only going to be one. And that will tell you kind of how hard the combat will be. And you go through the resolution, which involves rolling 2d6 plus the attack total of the attacking units against the defense value of the defending German unit plus a 2d6 roll, which is the defense total. Okay, you have to designate a lead attacking unit, and you can add artillery and air support. You tabulate the final attack value and defense value. You roll your dice, compute the results. Then you would remove your support markers and put them in the use support box. Okay, and then you get modifiers that will help you increase your attack value. You can also have factors that increase the defense value. There are limits to how many supports you can have. It's 3. How you compute the results. We'll go through this in detail when we play. You can have a repulse, a stalemate, which is a tie, or success, which is obviously a success, and then an overrun, where basically what happens there is your units remain fresh, so they can actually go again. Ambush area change, victory conditions. How's the game victory level determined? Then you've got your optional rules here. For things like limited air power, early lead unit declaration, the rivalry between Zhukov and Konev, the rules for the German Ninth Army, and things like army movement reaching the Elbe, special movement rules reaching Zone G. Each German Ninth Army unit that reaches Zone G, which is Brandenburg, increases German morale by 1, linking up with the 12th Army, so on and so forth. And we've got some pictures here, the famous Soviet flag over the Reichstag photo there, along with some other ones from the battle itself. Then we have an example of play. And then you have your history and suggested reading, Stalin and Zhukov there. Map of the attack, and a photo of Zhukov on the steps of the Reichstag. game strategy, so you get a little insight from the designer. And then we have our index here on these 2 pages and the opening setup. So this tells you the type of terrain and the defense values and strategies of the various units. And all of these play into how difficult that terrain will be to capture. So you have suburban, forest, light urban, and heavy urban. Okay, our next volume in this series is going to be Operation Michael, the Kaiser's Battle 1918. So look ahead at the next entry in the series, and then we have our counter manifest on the back. Okay, now we will move on. So you can see here are some counters, right? This is, you have the orange and tan, right? So this would be the Belarusian front. And then down here you have the light blue, which would be the Ukrainian front. And then the support markers for artillery, as you can see. Citadel markers, heavy urban. So these are the terrain types. And when you flip them over, you can see on the back the different defenses, right? So you have elite with their value, defense value. Then some of them are upside down. But you can see here Tiger tanks. It can be anywhere from 8 down to 5, it looks like. And so you can see all the various things that are in here. There's our Stalin approval, bloody street markers, spent attacks. Okay, so pretty straightforward, not overly complex. Then we have here the player aid cards. Start with the German defense strategy card. So this tells you what the defense strategy is, and that goes along with the words we saw in the counters, like elite, for example. So that tells, then when you have an elite, this is how you resolve the combat against that unit, right? So you have elite, fanatic, killzone, Hitlerjugend, ambush, folkstorm, Hetzer, panther, tiger, king tiger, anti-tank, trench, and verbal wind. Phone call to Stalin, as we saw earlier. On the back, you have your supply costs for what everything costs. Walkthrough of the end phase. Here are the supply costs for the different types of units that you can get, as well as the support markers. And then you get the Stalin approval German morale modifiers. So this is how they affect things. And then here we have our random events. You're rolling 3 dice, so you're going to have a number from 3 to 18, and that's this here. And you can see the Konev pause and the Zhukov pause here. It tells you that for Zhukov, for example, setup locations LM and M may move but not attack. On the back, you have the setup. So here is Zhukov's first Belarusian front with the tan and orange units, then Konev's first Ukrainian front with their units, and then German unit setup information and your support markers. All right, and last but certainly not least, we'll take a look at the map. You can't see the whole thing, but we'll kind of go through it. So this is the upper left, right? And you can see here's Spandau over here, area 41. +2 is the terrain modifier. You can see the triangle tells you the type, right? This is 42 for the Tegeler Sea. Reinickendorf Westen over here, Tegel, which is the airport. Actually, no. Where are the airports? Well, we'll get to the airports because there are some on here. Oh, they're over here. You can see airports, airfields, and the suburban areas are circular. So these are zones because they have letters, and they go around the board. Inside, you have the various. You have the diamond. Right, so this is your more heavily fortified areas of the city. As you would expect, the Reichstag is right here, which is kind of the middle-ish of the map, the Reichstag and the Chancellery. Right here you can see the +4 because these are citadels, hard to attack. Here's the airport that's actually in the city, Tempelhof, which, let me move the box so I can move this up a little more. So here you see Tempelhof, Flughafen, right, that's airport. And the Tempelhof area, Steglitz, Wilmersdorf, Botanical Garden, Grunewald, and so on. And you can see the blue lines over here for the river and possibly the Landwehr Canal, maybe. Might be in here somewhere, maybe not. But you can see here's the Volkspark over here. If you're familiar with Berlin, this would probably be somewhat familiar to you. But you can see here kind of the various areas. And then if we slide it over here to the right-hand side, you've got your out-of-action box at the top. Here's our sequence of play, your turn track, use support units. The available support units are at the bottom. Here's the key to the different types of Soviet units and their starting zones. Right, here's the 2 tracks for German morale and Stalin's approval. Then you've got things here for movement costs, combat resolution. Sorry, I can't lay it out flat at the moment. And then you've got areas A and B here, and the available support units are at the bottom, as you can see. Here's the game. And then we've got more of the zones here. So A and B are here and here. And then you've got C, D, E, and around the other way that we've already seen. And here's your calculations for the attack and defense value. So that is our look at the game Berlin, Fall of the Reich, 1945. That's going to do it for this one. I hope you found this video useful. Please consider liking, sharing, hyping, and or subscribing if you're not a subscriber, just to show your support for this video or for the channel in general. I always ask that. It is appreciated. You can do what you like, of course. Also, a quick shout out. Well, before we do my shout out, let's talk about comments. If you have any questions, comments, etc., you can put them in the comment section. I do my best to answer, or at least respond to every single comment I receive. I do look at them. So if you have something to say, that would be a good place to put it. But beyond that, I am now going to give my shout out to my channel members. Thank you for your support. If you're interested in finding out more about that, you can click on the join button. It doesn't make you join automatically. It just gives you the information about what's involved. And yeah, that's it. We are done. So there will be some gameplay of this in the not too distant future. But for now, I'm signing off. I'm Joe. This is Hexed Encountered. And until next time, as always, happy gaming.